She didn't leave because she stopped feeling something. She left because she thought she could feel something better. And the moment that illusion breaks, that's when everything starts hitting her at once. At the beginning, when she walks away, it doesn't feel like a loss to her. It feels like freedom. There's a sense of excitement running through her emotions, like she just opened a new chapter full of possibilities. She convinces herself that there's more out there, something more thrilling, more aligned, more right. And in that moment, she's not thinking about what she's leaving behind. She's focused on what she believes she's moving toward. Attention becomes easy. New conversations, new energy, new people showing interest. It creates a temporary high. And that high can be very deceptive because when everything is new, it feels better, even if it's not deeper, not real, not lasting. It's just different. But in her mind, different starts to feel like an upgrade. She begins comparing a real connection, something that took time, patience, and emotional investment to surface level experiences that haven't been tested yet. And of course, those new experiences seem lighter. There's no history, no challenges, no emotional weight, just fun curiosity and validation. And for a while, that's enough to keep her convinced that she made the right decision. But what she doesn't fully understand in that phase is that she's comparing two completely different realities. One was built over time through shared moments, consistency, and emotional presence. The other is still in its early stage where everything looks perfect because nothing real has been required yet. Fantasy always feels better than reality in the beginning. It's effortless. It doesn't expose flaws, and that's exactly why it's so attractive. But it's also why it doesn't last because sooner or later the newness fades, the excitement starts to normalize, and when that happens, what's left is the truth of what she chose, the depth, the connection, the emotional safety. Those things can't be replaced by temporary attention. They take time and they're rare. In the beginning, she can't see that clearly. Her focus is on what's ahead, not what she lost. But the seeds of comparison are already planted. And once reality starts to replace the illusion, those comparisons become impossible to ignore. And that's when the shift begins quietly, slowly, but powerfully. The moment you stop reaching out, stop trying to fix things, and completely remove your presence from her life, something shifts in a way most people don't expect. Because up until that point, she's used to you being there. She's used to your attention, your effort, your consistency. Even when she pulled away, a part of her still expected you to stay the same, to keep showing up, to keep chasing, to keep proving that she mattered. But when that suddenly disappears, it creates a kind of silence she can't control. And that silence is powerful. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it forces her to sit with her own thoughts. There are no more messages lighting up her phone from you, no more emotional reassurance, no more easy access to your energy. And for the first time, she experiences what life feels like without you in it. At first, she might not react. She might even tell herself it doesn't matter. Her ego can still keep her distracted with new attention, new people, and the excitement of something different. But your absence doesn't work instantly, it works over time. It lingers in the background, quietly building pressure. Because what made your presence valuable wasn't just what you said or did, it was the consistency of it. You were someone she could rely on, someone predictable in a world where most things aren't. And when that stability is gone, it creates a gap that isn't easy to fill. Other people might give attention, but they don't give it in the same way. They don't understand her the same way. They haven't built that emotional familiarity. And that's where the contrast begins to form. Your silence starts to carry meaning, not because you're trying to send a message, but because you're no longer reinforcing her expectations. She can't read you anymore. She can't predict you. And as human nature goes, what we can't access easily becomes more valuable in our minds. She may start checking her phone, wondering if you'll reach out. She might replay past conversations, questioning why you went quiet. Not necessarily because she's ready to come back, but because she feels the shift in control before she knew where you stood. Now she doesn't. And uncertainty creates curiosity. That curiosity slowly turns into reflection. Because without your presence filling the space, her mind starts filling it instead. She begins to think about how things were, how you showed up, how you made her feel. And those thoughts don't come from you trying to convince her, they come from her own experience, which makes them far more powerful. Your absence forces her to process the reality of losing you instead of taking you for granted. And that's when your silence starts speaking louder than anything you ever said. As time passes, the excitement that once felt so real begins to lose its intensity. What once gave her that rush, the new conversations, the new attention, the feeling of something different slowly starts to feel normal. And when something becomes normal, it no longer carries the same emotional weight. That's when reality quietly begins to step in. At first, she may not notice it. The shift is subtle. The energy from new people isn't as consistent as she expected. The effort isn't as natural. The conversations that once felt exciting now feel repetitive, even shallow at times. And it's not that something is suddenly wrong, it's just that the illusion of something better starts fading piece by piece because new experiences are easy in the beginning. Nobody has to show their full self yet. There's no pressure, no expectations, no real emotional investment required. It's all surface level, driven by curiosity and attraction. But as time goes on, people reveal who they really are, and that's when the difference becomes impossible to ignore. She starts to notice what's missing. The consistency you once gave isn't there in the same way. The understanding you had of her, the small things you picked up on, the way you responded to her moods, the emotional awareness, that's not something easily replaced. Those things weren't built overnight, and now she's experiencing what it's like without them. And this is where the comparison begins to hit on a deeper level. Before, she compared your relationship to an idea, a fantasy of something better, but now she's comparing real experiences to real memories, and that kind of comparison is much more honest. She starts realizing that what felt exciting wasn't necessarily meaningful, it was just new. The emotional depth you brought into her life starts to stand out in contrast to the lighter, less grounded connection she's experiencing now. Conversations that once felt effortless now feel forced. Moments that once felt genuine now feel temporary. And slowly she begins to understand that not all attention is equal. Some attention is just there to pass time. What you gave her was something different, something stable, something real, something that required presence and intention. And those things aren't common. This realization doesn't hit all at once, it builds gradually. A thought here, a feeling there, a moment where something feels off, followed by a memory of how it used to feel with you. And each time that happens, the gap between fantasy and reality becomes clearer. She begins to see that what she left behind wasn't something ordinary, it was something that actually mattered. And once that clarity starts settling in, it becomes harder for her to ignore what she truly lost. Once the noise around her begins to quiet down, that's when something deeper starts happening beneath the surface. It's no longer about distractions, attention, or what's happening in the present moment. It becomes internal, and that's where emotional memory begins to take over. Because no matter how far she tries to move forward, the way you made her feel doesn't just disappear. Emotions don't work like that. They don't vanish on command, they get stored. And when there's finally space to think, to feel, to reflect without constant distraction, those stored emotions start rising back up. It often starts in small, unexpected moments. A certain song, a place, a time of day, or even something simple that reminds her of you. And suddenly, she's not just remembering what happened, she's remembering how it felt. The comfort, the familiarity, the emotional safety that was once a constant in her life. And that feeling is very different from the surface level excitement she's been experiencing elsewhere. Because excitement fades quickly, but emotional connection leaves a mark. She begins replaying conversations in her mind. The way you understood her without her having to explain everything, the way you stayed grounded when things weren't perfect, the little things you did that didn't seem significant at the time, but now stand out because no one else does them the same way. And the more she reflects, the more those memories gain emotional weight. At first, she may try to brush it off, tell herself it's just nostalgia, just a temporary feeling. But the mind doesn't hold on to things that had no meaning. The reason those memories keep coming back is because they were real, they were built on something deeper than just attraction or convenience. And now, without you there to reinforce those feelings in real time, her mind begins doing it on its own. She starts comparing how she felt with you to how she feels now. And that comparison is no longer based on excitement, it's based on emotional truth. She begins to realize that what she had wasn't just comfortable, it was rare, because not everyone brings that kind of presence into someone's life. Not everyone creates a connection that feels both strong and natural at the same time. And that realization doesn't bring immediate action, it brings internal conflict. she may start questioning her decision, wondering if she overlooked something important, wondering if she let go of something that actually mattered more than she initially believed. And those questions don't come from ego anymore, they come from emotion, because now it's no longer about proving something or chasing something new. It's about understanding what she lost. And once those emotions fully resurface, they don't just pass, they stay with her. At the beginning of all of this, her decisions were driven by something very surface level ego, not in a negative way, but in a very human way. The desire for independence, the curiosity about what else is out there, the validation that comes from new attention. It gives her a sense of control, a sense of certainty that she's making the right move. And when ego is leading, it's easy to ignore anything that challenges that decision. She tells herself she needed this, that she deserves something better, something more aligned, something that feels effortless. And for a while, that belief protects her from doubt. It keeps her moving forward without looking back, because as long as she stays in that mindset, she doesn't have to question whether she made a mistake. But ego doesn't hold forever. Over time, as the excitement fades and reality settles in, that strong sense of certainty begins to weaken. The distractions aren't as effective. The validation doesn't feel as meaningful. And slowly, emotion starts to replace ego as a driving force behind her thoughts. This is where everything starts to change, because emotion doesn't care about the story she told herself in the beginning, doesn't care about pride or proving a point or maintaining an image. Emotion is honest. It brings her back to how things actually felt, not how she tried to justify them. She begins to feel the absence in a different way now, not as freedom, but as a loss. And that shift is powerful because it's no longer something she can ignore or distract herself from. It becomes something she has to face. Doubt starts to creep in. She starts questioning her decision, not from a place of logic, but from a place of feeling, wondering if she acted too quickly, wondering if she misunderstood what she had, wondering if she traded something real for something temporary. And these thoughts don't come all at once, they build gradually, becoming harder to push away each time they return. There's an internal conflict happening now. Part of her still wants to hold on to the original decision, to stay consistent with the path she chose. But another part of her, a deeper, more honest part, is starting to recognize that something valuable was lost. And that conflict creates tension because it forces her to confront a possibility she didn't want to consider before, that she might have been wrong. And when that realization begins to settle in, it shifts her perspective completely. It's no longer about moving on or finding something better. It's about understanding what she gave up and whether she can get it back. That's when the urge to reach out begins to form, not out of curiosity, not out of boredom, but out of something real, a need to reconnect with what once made her feel grounded, understood, and secure. Because now it's not her ego leading anymore, it's her emotions pulling her back. By the time she comes back, everything has changed, and most importantly, so have you. Time and absence don't just affect her perspective, they transform yours as well. You've had the chance to step away from the need to control the outcome, to stop chasing, and to focus entirely on your own growth. That transformation shifts the entire dynamic. What she once took for granted now exists in a different context, a version of you who no longer revolves around her decisions or validations, a version who is leveled up emotionally, mentally, and even socially. She may return expecting the same person she left behind, the same energy she once dismissed, the same availability she once overlooked. But what she finds is someone who has built a life independent of her, someone who values himself, his time, his emotional energy, and his purpose more than anything. That presence, calm, confident, and self assured, speaks louder than any words you could say. And in many ways, it's more attractive than ever because it's real, it's untouchable, and it can't be recreated. When she realizes she wants back what she once had, the power dynamic has shifted. It's no longer about her walking away and you running after her. It's no longer about validation or chasing approval. The tables have turned now. She's approaching you, seeing your value clearly, and potentially hoping to reconnect. But by this point, you've already defined your own life, your own boundaries, and your own standards. Your personal growth has created a space where only someone who genuinely aligns with your life can enter, not out of convenience, not out of curiosity, but out of mutual respect and connection. Her return is not necessarily a victory, it's a reflection of the reality she missed. It's a testament to the stability, consistency, and depth you offered that she now recognizes only in retrospect. And because she comes back to someone who has detached from outcomes, who has focused on becoming the best version of himself, you now get the choice. The choice is not fueled by desperation or fear of loss, it's fueled by clarity, self respect, and understanding your own worth. This moment is crucial because it highlights an important principle. Transformation is more powerful than persuasion. You don't need to convince her of your value. Your life, your presence, and your energy demonstrate it without a single word. And that's the difference between someone returning out of manipulation and someone returning because they truly recognize what they lost. By the time she comes back, it's no longer about her being right or wrong. It's about your growth and your ability to hold your frame, to maintain the standards you set, and to continue living the life you've built without being shaken by her return. And that understanding, that control over your own energy and choices is the real power. Because when she comes back, it isn't her return that matters most, it's the man she's returning to.